afternoon. I'm just going to sit here because I will be about as tall as if I stand up. I'm Julie Koppich, and I'm here today representing the Local Control Funding Formula Research Collaborative, a mouthful, the LCFF-RC, an acronym that does not fall trippingly off the tongue. We're a group of senior researchers that has spent the last few years looking at implementation of LCF from all kinds of dimensions. My colleague Magali Lavadens from Loyola Marymount is here. The other folks who join us on the team are Julie Marsh from USC, who's also a PACE director, Jennifer O'Day from AIR, Laura Stokes from Inverness Research, and Dan Humphrey, who's currently an independent consultant, most recently was the Education Policy Director at SRI. We're a varied group. We have different experiences, and we come at this work from different perspectives. I'm going to, since John has severely constricted my time, I'm going to just spend a very few minutes talking with you about a few of the highlights from our most recent report released in April. That's the title of it. And in this piece of work, we looked at LCFF implementation primarily through the lenses of equity and coherence. I don't have time to explain. Maybe my remarks will, or you can ask probing questions. Oh, yeah, all right. So we've looked at LCFF from a number of perspectives. I'm going to talk about 4 of them. And some of our findings, I think, belie what's rapidly becoming the conventional wisdom around LCFF. On stakeholder engagement, parents remain the focus of stakeholder engagement. I probably should have said that this work comes out of 8 case studies. Over the 3 years, we've looked at 25 cases, districts, but this year is 8. Parents are the focus of stakeholder engagement, have been since the beginning, but engagement is clearly a work in progress. Many districts just don't have it right. We noticed 2 changes this year, over the past 2 years. One is many districts acknowledge that despite their best efforts, they don't have engagement right yet. Secondly, many districts are altering the strategies around particularly parent engagement in an effort to involve a wider and deeper group of parents. And so what we found in a few of our districts is some of them continue to hold the y'all come big district-wide meetings, but those that do have shifted the focus to more global kinds of questions like, what are your aspirations for your child, and how can this district help you help the child or children recognize them? Those efforts often are coupled with school-based meetings. This is what we've seen emerging this year, that several districts are holding engagement meetings at schools. The principals, sometimes teachers, definitely parents, talk about what the priorities of the school should be, both in terms of resource allocation and in terms of learning experiences. And in those districts, we find more parent engagement, deeper parent engagement, different parents engaged than would come to and be willing to speak at a great big district-wide meeting. And what we find, not surprisingly, is the reason that engagement is different when it's school-based is that parents tell us, well, the district's fine, I kind of like the district, superintendent's a nice person, but what I really care about is what's happening at my child's school. I want a particular program or a particular effort or a particular strategy or dollars spent on at my school. So we've seen a change in stakeholder engagement. In terms of resource allocation, 2 points to make. One is that LCFF definitely is altering the way that districts develop budget. And by that I mean that under categorical funding, we found this wide divide between the budget office and program officers. It was kind of never the twain shall meet. So the budget office would say to any number of program offices that represented any number of categorical programs, you have this number of dollars this year, figure out how to spend them. But we've seen a change over time, including this year, and that change is that budget and curriculum are talking with one another. They're figuring out what an overall instructional program ought to look like, obviously because the money is not categorical any longer. And secondly, we found, a little bit to our surprise, but we found this in the districts we studied, that the supplemental and concentration funds actually are supporting the target groups. Perhaps there's not enough money. Perhaps they're not supporting them well enough. Perhaps we're not seeing enough demonstrable changes yet. But we found that those dollars are being allocated for counselors, for specialist teachers, for social workers, not broadly to the student population, but to the students who are named in LCFF, low income, English learners, foster youth. In terms of equity, LCFF does not have a definition of equity. But it is very much implied. If you listen to statements from the governor, from the state superintendent, from state board members, it is very much implied. And the implication is that equity in this context does not mean equality. That equity of opportunity means unequal resources, more supports and services to the target groups of students. And we found in the districts we studied this year that in fact most of those districts are embracing that particular definition of equity. So they are ensuring that more resources go to the schools with higher concentrations of the 3 target groups of students. Not perfect. We found a couple of anomalies. They were a little odd, where they construed equity differently, but we're convinced that they are anomalies. And secondly, we heard over and over again from district officials and from principals that they see LCFF as a vehicle to provide more opportunities for students named in LCFF. A word about coherence. LCFF was meant, I think, to move districts from kind of a fragmentary, regulatory compliance notion that categoricals obviously instantiated to a much more strategic, coherent planning and budgeting sensibility. We're not there yet. For all the reasons other panelists have described, we're not there yet. When we looked across our 8 districts, we found that some had higher levels of coherence. In other words, all of their major documents, their strategic plan, their LCAP, their budget, all were based on the same set of goals. But we found others that were almost the opposite, that everything was done as if it were done in isolation, and you couldn't tell it was the same district filling out all those forms. Sue's sitting next to me. I'm hoping she doesn't have rotten tomatoes in her hand. The LCAP remains a bit of a problem, despite the board's efforts. Despite the board's efforts, good faith efforts to revise the LCAP, and there were substantial revisions this year. We're doing some research now that will tell us how districts are embracing those revisions and what difference they've made. The LCAP remains a bit of a problem, though. It's long, it's cumbersome. It doesn't let districts tell their story, which is what they really want. And in part, it's the LCAP, and in part, it's the state collectively overcoming 40 years of categorical funding and 40 years of a compliance mindset. So I'm going to quickly tick off our recommendations. And the recommendations actually for the state. One is, we believe that the state needs to continue to message what LCFF is and what it's designed to do. There are lots of documents out there. The board has put them out. The department has put them out. SESSA has put them out. Advocacy organizations have put them out. And yet, some people aren't hearing the message. And so there's a need constantly, I think, to reaffirm what LCFF is about, what it's meant to do, and what kinds of continuing steps we need to take to realize the policy's promise. We need to continue to ensure that particularly county offices and districts have the capacity to do what they're being asked to do. Perhaps CCEE will be able to help with that, but CCEE, as David said, Carl's organization is little, this state is very big. So I think we need to give some additional thought to how, in fact, we provide those seminal organizations, districts and county offices in particular, with the kind of capacity they need to do the work they're meant to do. And third, we'd like the state to allow a little experimentation. The LCAP is meant to accomplish three purposes. It's meant to describe engagement, strategic planning and budgeting, and accountability for equity. No document can do that. No document, however well crafted. So we'd like to see districts have an opportunity to see if they can, in fact, invent tools that appropriately do what LCFF requires, hold them accountable for results, but perhaps do it in a slightly different format. So just to end, coming attractions. We know that our research, as fabulous as it is, has a few limitations. And one of the biggest limitations is we've conducted 25 case studies, district case studies, in a state that has 1,000 districts. So in order to try to remedy that, at least some, we are planning early in this fall, possibly as early as August, to field 2 surveys, statewide surveys. One, a sample of superintendents, and one, a sample of principals, to try to get their understanding, their challenges, their successes with LCFF implementation. And I'll stop there. Thank you.